Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 84. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for joining us this Monday, Steelers Nation. The AFC-NFC Championship games wrapping up yesterday. It'll be the Chiefs and Eagles competing for Super Bowl LIX. That's number 59 in a rematch of that game 2 years ago as the Chiefs look to become the first team to ever three-peat in Super Bowl history. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. And we're back at action here on this Monday, even though Steelers news is relatively quiet. Dave, how you doing? How was your weekend?
Oh, it was fine. Watched a lot of football, obviously. Watched both the games on Sunday and actually ordered up a couple of pizzas at the house, which is strange for us. I felt like diving all in and being bad yesterday. I'm paying for it today, though. But yeah, we know who's going to be in the Super Bowl a couple of weeks from now. Lot of scoring going on in those games, and the lowest scoring team was the Commanders at 23 points. I mean, it just goes to show you get into deeper in the playoffs, you better be able to score some points. And we talked a lot about the Chiefs and the Bills and wondering if this was going to be the year that someone could finally get to the Chiefs. Well, Josh Allen and the Bills, I mean, they had the opportunity. They had the ball near at the end of the game and down 3, and obviously a chance to at least tie it or go ahead and then make Patrick Mahomes come down and really earn it. But they obviously couldn't do that. And anytime you give up 32 points to a team like the Chiefs, you're probably going to end up losing the game more times than not. So interesting thing there. I thought this was going to be the year that the Bills finally got past the Chiefs and more specifically the Chiefs finally fall based on kind of some of the performances that have led up throughout the season here. But they got it done, and you got a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. And I guess what's one of the main takeaways here coming out of the Final Four teams heading into the Super Bowl? I think you got to look at the quarterback position and mobility to be specific. You obviously have had two very mobile quarterbacks in that earlier game, Eagles and the Commanders. And then fast forward to the game Sunday night, even though you got a big guy in Josh Allen, he's got some mobility, and Patrick Mahomes in this win used his mobility a lot more than maybe he had throughout the season here. So that's the big takeaway. What a lot of defense overall in either one of these two games. It was a lot of point scoring, moving the ball up and down the field, and this should be an entertaining Super Bowl.
Yeah, it should be. Two, I think, contrasting teams a little bit in styles, but great coaches, and they just find ways to win, and sometimes it's different ways, and that always makes for an exciting matchup. I just want to reiterate what I said after the divisional round. If you look at all the teams that won the divisional round and the two teams that won yesterday, the Eagles and Chiefs combined in those, that would have been 4-something games. There was a combined 1 turnover between the teams that won in the divisional round and the teams that won in the championship round. So that's a real obvious but true commonality. Take care of the football, and your chances of winning really tends to skyrocket. Not that it's an excuse or should make Steeler fans or the team feel better because they don't have the excuses, but you're seeing teams in better situations than Pittsburgh, but teams that can't get over the hump in the way that Pittsburgh cannot get over the hump and win a playoff game. Baltimore, they can't get over the hump. Buffalo, they can't get over the hump. The Chiefs are their kryptonite. And so it is a reminder that winning is hard, even when you have a franchise quarterback and you're in an era with the Mahomes that is now the Tom Brady of this era, where you got to deal with him and you got to go through him, and that's going to be an exceedingly difficult task. Again, does not excuse or wave away all of Pittsburgh's problems and their struggle solving them, but it is a reminder that the NFL is a hard game to win.
Yeah, that doesn't make anybody feel any better, probably, but it is a reality. I mean, Josh Allen is becoming the Ben Roethlisberger to Tom Brady's, so to speak, right? You just can't get past him in a game that counts when it comes to Patrick Mahomes there, and it is hard. I mean, look, I mean, say what you will about the Chiefs, and I root against them all I can right now because I'm tired of seeing them win as well too. Just back when we were used to do it with the Patriots and all like that, but to do what they're able to do, and yeah, I get the whole officiating. I think overall the officiating was fine in that game yesterday against the Bills, and I understand the pushback against Mahomes and get some calls here over the years and all like that. I definitely get all that, but I thought overall the game was officiated well. What I'm getting at here is it's so hard to win in the NFL, and it's so hard to win year after year consistently. And the fact now that they have the opportunity to do what no team has done before, three-peat, especially when you look at, the age of the salary cap and all those guys, having to get paid on that team, and the roster turnover annually that teams have. For them to be back in this position again, I mean, it speaks volumes about the importance of the quarterback position. But I mean, quite honestly, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is all been all that in a bag of chips throughout this season. We've talked a lot about his adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat and how really he's become more of a dink and dunk quarterback. If you look at even this game against the Bills yesterday, and you look at the passing chart, Alex, I think he had 2 passes that he completed that flew more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. Now, he did have a lot of yak throughout the game. In fact, there's some kid named Juju Smith-Schuster caught a couple of passes. I think both those went for over 30 yards each in that one. And I think they had like 5 explosive plays total. Juju had 2 of them. Their other young receiver had 2 of them as well too. But they weren't in a lot of third down situations. I think that's one thing that you can point to when it comes to why they won that game. In fact, I had to look twice at it to make sure it was right yesterday when looking at the box score. They were 5 of 9, just 9 third down conversions the Chiefs had in that game, and they ran 63 total plays. So they did a good job of staying on schedule overall. And when they were in third down situations, they converted over half of them, which was the case throughout the season. I think they led the NFL in third down percentage throughout the season. And the rare opportunity that they needed a fourth down in that game, they were 1 for 1 in that as well too. So if you stay out of third down situations, not turn the football over, which they did turn it over, unfortunately, once, and it led to Buffalo Bills points. And you're converting third and fourth down situations when you get them in them, and you're 4 of 6 in the red zone like they were as well too. That's gonna win you a lot of games. So it is amazing to look what they've done over these last several years, and I'll be rooting against them to definitely get the three-peat, but without a doubt, there probably should be favorites in this one.
They're a great situational ball team, and that is so critical when you're facing great versus great, best on best. It's going to come down to who makes those plays in those critical moments, those gotta-have-it moments, especially late in game. They get that final third down conversion that seals it. And they're a team where everyone knows kind of what the model is of how they're going to play. Even Mike Tomlin, to kind of bring it back to Pittsburgh for a moment, had those T-shirts going into that Christmas Day game that said, "Don't get beat to the flat," because the Chiefs are a team that loves to utilize leverage and out leverage you to the flat, and that's where they want to make their hay. Like you said, they aren't the vertical aerial video game offense attack like they used to be, in part because we talk about the resurgence of too high defenses, playing too deep. a lot of that was borne out because of the Chiefs, because they had Tyreek Hill and Mahomes was flinging it downfield and Kelsey getting downfield, and teams wanted to take away the deep ball and force Mahomes and the Chiefs to really go on drives, but they're capable of doing that. But all that to say is this is a Chiefs team where you know what's coming. Pittsburgh knew what was coming. They didn't execute. Buffalo knew what was coming. They didn't execute. They, don't defend the flat on that final third down that ices the game for Kansas City. The Chiefs have basically won their last 2 Super Bowls on throws to the flat. Their last touchdown in that first game against the Eagles was in the flat. Their touchdown to beat the Niners in overtime was to the flat. And they just find ways where, you know what you're going to get and what you're going to see, but you still can't stop. And that's the mark of a really well-coached and well-organized team.
Man, they had, once again, they had one player catch or 2 players catch 3 or more passes in that game yesterday. Hollywood Brown had 3 catches for 35 yards, and Worthy had 6 for 85. And even though they had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other people catch passes in that game, none of them caught more than 2. And Juju had 2 for 60 yards, as I mentioned, and one of them 31. I think one of them 29 within that, and one of those was kind of I think an extended play type situation with him in the middle of the field. So a lot of times, more times than not, you see the ball kind of come out, quick from Mahomes, especially over to the flats and to the sides when they get the numbers and they get the look that they need, and then other times it's Mahomes kind of extending the play, if you will, and finding somebody, either in the middle of the field or down the sideline. And they are so potent with inside the red zone, and they are so potent on third down, as we've talked about throughout the season. How do they keep getting away with the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat as low as it was throughout the regular season? And you couldn't help but just look at what they do on third down and in the red zone, as to reasons why they're able to overcome that. And it is quite, when you look at historically and that number, for them to be able to be in a situation to win the Super Bowl would be very historic when it comes to that number. And it just goes to show you that, a good quarterback can overcome. He doesn't take a lot of sacks, obviously, and he doesn't turn the football over a lot either. And I mean, if you look at the wide receivers once again, just start reading down the names of the guys that caught passes yesterday. Worthy, I mean, obviously a young, talented player, but not considered upper echelon in the league just yet. Smith-Schuster, been around a while, and technically probably had, if not for the Chiefs, you would have a solid one foot out of the game right now at this time. Marquise Hollywood Brown never really lived up to expectations around the league. More of an undersized speed guy that needed kind of the right fit, right offense, and Kansas City's that. Who else do they have? Everybody knows Nuke Hopkins, but he's another one that's up there in age and has to be utilized right in this situation. He only had 1 catch for 11 yards, but it's not really a receiving unit that strikes the fear of God in you, but with the right quarterback, they get it done, right?
Right. Certainly life is much easier when you have a Patrick Mahomes, but I just want to give credit to 2 things. A, their ability to win in 1-possession games. I do talk about that a lot with Pittsburgh. I think it is one of Mike Tomlin's greatest strengths. I know talking about Tomlin's strengths is not a popular thing right now, but Pittsburgh, and I said the stat many times, best 1-possession team since he became the head coach in 2007. But the Chiefs are probably rocketing up that board right now. I hadn't checked the numbers post 2024 season, but the Chiefs have won 17 straight 1-possession games, just an absurd stat. And yes, some people can call it luck, some people can say regression to the mean, but there are some teams, usually because of great coaching, that are able to win those tight moments. And you're in the playoffs, you're in tight moments. They win this game by 1 possession, by 3, 32-29. That's the mark of a really good team. And yes, again, while they have great talent, Chris Jones, Mahomes, etc., they have great coaching on both sides of the ball, really all three phases, including special teams coordinator Dave Taub. They got a big kick return in this game. Offensively, that final third down call to P. Ryan to ice it, it's a great call. They're running this mesh concept. They're leaking the back out the opposite way into the flat, get them wide open, a step on the linebacker, again, leveraging to the flat. They convert, they win the game. Defensively, that fourth down call from Spags on that corner blitz to got Josh Allen, who made a ridiculous play that still should have been caught by the tight end, but still, what a great call that is. You don't see those things in Pittsburgh. You don't see what we're talking about, man. State there was this just money call in this big time moment with everything on the line, and they just couldn't, or they just out scheme the opponent. And so that is certainly one fair critique of Pittsburgh is you're not seeing those real advanced or high level schemes or great play calls in those big time moments to win games.
Yeah, those leveraged moments in games, most definitely. Kansas City always seems to come out on the right end of those, as you state. And they have the high degree of risk a lot of times tied to them. And Tony Romo kept talking about, yeah, he usually goes zero coverage here, and which is a Spags hallmark, right? But you also have to worry about tendencies in those situations, and he does. One thing about Spags is he's got enough Rolodex and knows how to spin it just right with the personnel that he has to create kind of surprises in situations where normally you could put a guess correctly on what he might do, zero stuff and high pressure numbers type situations.
Yeah. So when you have really good coaching with a good identity and philosophy in top down from Brett Veach to Andy Reid, and of course you have Patrick Mahomes, that's how you become a chance to become the first 3P team in Super Bowl history. So more Chiefs, more of the same, and more what Pittsburgh is searching for.
All right, what can we take away from these last couple of weeks of games to apply to what we think Pittsburgh needs to at least try to be to get over the hump to win a playoff game? Woohoo!
Yeah, I mean, obviously quarterback play is the elephant in the room. Everybody knows it. You didn't even need these playoff games to tell you that, but it reinforces the idea all the more. I'm still of the mindset, first round quarterback, homegrown. That's the way you're going to, likelihood get at a quarterback in football purgatory. Now Hurts is a second round pick, but again, just the commonality, the majority of the time is first round quarterback, homegrown. Trench play overall, I still think is really important. Good offensive line. You see the scheme elevating and taking care of the football. Again, one turnover from all the teams to won the divisional rounds and the championship rounds combined is a really stark number that sticks out to me.
All right, we keep hearing about Mike Tomlin and how important quarterback mobility is, and you've got a mobile one there. We'll see if they're able to get him back in Justin Fields, who be interesting to once you get through the playoffs and you see teams that are still kind of searching for a quarterback around the league. You're going to have to wonder, what the how many teams are indeed interested in Justin Fields to kind of apply what they think they can do to kind of what wins in the NFL right now with mobile quarterbacks. Long story short is if the Steelers do go back and try to run it back with Justin Fields as their starting quarterback in 2025, they've got to attach more to the mobility aspect of him, right? We've got to see him be willing to have more of the zone read stuff. We've got to see more of the moving pocket stuff, kind of hallmarks that we've seen Arthur Smith, the play pass element that Arthur Smith likes in his offense. I mean, we've got to see the mobility of the quarterback be able to take the offense to that next level. More importantly, they've got to put more points on the board. I mean, it's no secret. If you're going to compete and get into the tournament, win a playoff game next year and do it with a guy like Justin Fields, you've got to be able to move the football. You got to be able to punch it in. And, it's not just a quarterback that's going to be part of it. You're going to have to surround him with good players. But, is their best option, and we've talked about this since the season ended. I mean, it seems like it. But, I mean, their best option, right now just seems to try to get Justin Fields re-signed and run it back and really try to increase the offensive output based on the quarterback mobility, right?
I'm trying to think back, and you tell me your thoughts. Did they utilize Fields enough as a runner in his 6 games that he started? I felt like
Not
they
enough. I
did.
think we were
No.
calling for it more. I think we would have liked to seen more of the zone read stuff. I mean, they did a good job, I thought, down low in the red zone, right?
Hmm.
And utilize him that way. But they really running it back through my head. It doesn't feel like they did enough to emphasize his mobility early on.
Okay. I'm trying to think, and I truly have kind of a foggy memory because it just feels like an eternity ago. I feel like there was maybe a game or two where they were underutilizing it, but if you look at his carries per game, 14 against Atlanta, 8 against Denver, 6 versus the Chargers, 10 against the Colts, 6 against Dallas, and 11 against the Raiders. I mean, that's a pretty healthy number overall.
Yeah,
But
but how many were designed? How many scrambles and all
sure.
like that? You know.
Yeah, I don't know for sure on that. I mean, there certainly were a fair number of design runs. I just don't have the split. And, I think Atlanta, there was a fair amount, especially to close out some of those games. But that's something I probably want to go back and look at if they do bring back Fields. If it does seem like he's going to be the most likely starter for 2025, is to see some of the design quarterback run game. I also think, if it is a Fields that comes back, or even if it's a Russ, no matter the quarterback, whenever you're in a year two with the OC, you have more kind of laid the foundation together and you can build upon that better. I mean, there was so much new in Pittsburgh this year with a new OC, new quarterbacks coach, brand new quarterback room. Russ gets hurt in training camp. You get Fields for 6 a game. You just, then you switch to Russ the rest of the way. Fields gets hurt, late in the season, misses some time. There just really wasn't a chance to have kind of stability
Right.
and to lay that good foundation. That's not to say that these guys are going to magically take giant leaps in play because of a second year, but there was a lot of rockiness, a lot of back and forth with a quarterback, a lot of situations they had to deal with that was pretty unique to them and probably to most NFL teams this season.
Look, I am especially the way this roster looks right now, and we got a long way to go within it. No, I'm not just saying, you know, more zone reads going to solve everything here, and because look, he's still going to have his limitations within that. But I'm just trying to roll through my head what kind of the best situation would be right now that could potentially allow you to win the most games. Look, they obviously need more talent at the wide receiver position, right? If you tried to roll it back again with George Pickens and the rest of the receiving crew that they had, and even adding Roman Wilson to that group, you're probably you probably be lucky to win 10 games, within that. Same running backs and all like that. They've got to give him more weapons around him moving forward, and obviously, they're going to have to take the clamps off of him a little bit, as well, because I mean, even though you see guys like Patrick Mahomes don't have a huge attempted air yard and completed air yard distance, on few of those, they are at least throwing to the middle of the field. I think what was it, 3 or 4 passes that Mahomes completed yesterday. They weren't far down the field, but they were in the middle of the field. I think in kind of high leverage type situations as well too. So I am in no way stating that running it back with Justin Fields is going to guarantee you anything. I just think that if it feels like it's going to be the best of the options out there at this time, and if you do roll it back with him, it feels like you do have to concentrate on the mobile. Look, sacks is another thing. The Steelers have got to cut down on the sacks, plain and simple, right? Those negative plays kill this team, and we saw combined between Fields and Russell Wilson this past year that they were right at that 50 number again. And you can't have those. How many times was Patrick Mahomes sacked this year?
I will check. Probably not a ton, in part because the ball came out so
Right.
lightning quick. He was sacked twice yesterday. He was sacked 36 times in 16 starts during the regular season.
Okay.
5.8 sack percentage. We'll compare that to Fields. And some of the question is how much of the sacks are on the O-line and how many of the sacks are on the quarterbacks. There is certainly a fair helping of both. Fields' sack percentage was 9%, and Russ, which certainly increased towards the end of the season, it was just under 9%.
All right, and as a team, the Chiefs were sacked 41 times.
Yeah, now some of that came in that finale where they rested everybody and Chris Oladokin got in the game. But yeah, the Chiefs have less negativity overall. They take care of the football. They don't get sacked a ton. They don't beat themselves in a lot of ways.
How many times was Josh Allen sacked this year?
I want to say very few, but I might be wrong about that. Just have a vague memory of seeing some stats throughout the season.
14 times.
Yeah, just 2.8 sack percentage. It's probably one of the lowest in recent years, if I had to guess.
How many times was Hurts sacked this year?
That's probably a bit higher if I had to guess. Because that does
38 in total, 45 as a team.
Yeah, 9.5% sack rate for Hurts, which is more in line with the Fields and Wilson. So some of those mobile guys can create their own problems, but it's a live by the sword, die by the sword kind of a thing. Sort of like Ben, not in the same exact way because Ben was not that mobile, but him, that never say die attitude. I'm going to try to make the play. It helped you, it hurt you, but it helped you more than it hurt you, and it made it work.
All right. You wrote an article about the quarterback position in the Steelers this morning, right?
Yeah, just something I mentioned on Friday's show. It's sometimes how the articles come out. We'll just talk, and I say, okay, let me put this down into written form and kind of expand on this some more.
This has 110 comments.
Yeah, some of them are nice, some of them less nice, but it's a fair mix. I'll take it. It's just the idea of, yes, the Steelers are in purgatory. Yes, they're unlikely to tank and bottom out and be a 3-win team that's going to get, top 5 pick and a chance for a blue chip quarterback prospect. But I don't think that's required or necessary to find this next franchise quarterback. It is a path to do it, certainly, but it is not the only path. And the Bills have shown that. The Ravens have shown that. The Chiefs have shown that. All those teams had winning records before they found Josh Allen and Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, it's likely going to require a first-round pick. It's got a good chance to require trading up for a quarterback and being aggressive. All of that is to say that the fact that Pittsburgh is, an average to above average regular season team, an 8 to 10 win team, cannot be an excuse for not finding a franchise quarterback. It is still possible. It is doable. And there are plenty of examples of teams who did not suck the year before and did not have a top 3, top 5 pick to find a franchise quarterback. So that cannot be the excuse for this franchise of, oh, well, we're just too good to get a franchise quarterback, I guess. Woe is me. No, that is not good enough.
But you're still not a fan of just taking a dart throw, let's say this year or later in the draft, right?
No, I'm not, because dart throws is not a good plan to find a franchise quarterback. I want a calculated plan of this is our guy that we're going to believe in and think that he can be the answer. And yes, there is no guarantee. Of course, there's no guarantee. Kenny Pickett just showed that. But the alternative can't be just to sit on your hands and not try. The only way you get out of purgatory is by trying and taking that chance and that risk. So, no, I don't. Yes, there are examples of late round quarterbacks that have worked, but the hit rate is exceedingly low. And you can't sit there and draft a guy in the 4th round and say, that's our guy. So the commonality for most teams is a first round homegrown quarterback.
All right. How would you apply that to this year's draft then?
Well, as I write in the article, this may not be the year to do it. I mean, you can't always force it if it's not there. With 2 quarterbacks likely to be first round picks, you got quarterback needy teams picking top 3, top 6. I'm not saying this has to be the year. I'm not saying that, but that is going to be the path at some point, maybe for 2026. But the point is that Pittsburgh just can't play we're just too good to get that good quarterback card, because it doesn't fly. The Bills made it work. The Chiefs made it work. The Ravens made it work. The Broncos with Bo Nix made it work. That was an 8-win team. They moved up, I think, to get Nix. So sorry, it just cannot be the excuse of why Pittsburgh is unable to find a franchise quarterback.
Right, but if they continue to have winning records, they're going to and get into the playoffs and either win one or not win one. They're still going to be picking in that section of 20 overall. Then Do you just have to wait for a bloated quarterback class, or aren't you at the mercy of just waiting for a bloated top heavy quarterback class?
No, not at all. The Bills didn't wait. The Chiefs didn't wait. The Ravens didn't wait, although their situation was kind of weird. I mean, those teams were all 9-7, 9-7, 12-4, were those teams' records before they found their quarterback. So no, this is again that I don't believe that just because Pittsburgh's going to be a 9 or 10 win team means that they just don't get to try to find their franchise quarterback. It may require trading up and being aggressive and taking that chance. Sure, I get that. I mean, that's what history is showing. But Pittsburgh just can't sit there and say we're just not going to be able to find one because we're picking 21st, and that's where we're stuck. I mean, that's a definition of being stuck.
But you do agree that this is a tough year to do that, unless they were all in on a Ward or a Shadur Sanders, right?
Yes, I agree. This year's probably not the year to do it, but there's got to be a different mentality for this team. And then it's a general response to some of the thoughts from fans and pundits that say this team just has to tank and hit the reset button and blow it up and get that top 5 pick and get that quarterback. I don't believe that is the only path to find a quarterback.
All right. I imagine this post will have quite a few comments on it by the end of the day. I mean, it's already got 121 now, and it went up. What time did it go up this morning?
I think 8:30.
Yeah. Okay. There was a veteran quarterback mentioned over the weekend by an insider, right?
Can I interest you in one Joe Flacco, Dave Bryan? According to Tony Pauline for Sportskeeda, he reports the Steelers are a team to watch. Now, I mentioned other teams too for Joe Flacco, mentioned the 49ers and the Patriots. It sounded a bit more like dot connecting of teams that may look for veteran backup quarterbacks, and Joe Flacco could fit that bill. Pittsburgh obviously knows Flacco very well, his days in Baltimore, losing to him in week 4 when Flacco came off the bench to replace Anthony Richardson. So the mobility obviously wouldn't be there with Flacco, which is what Mike Tomlin's talked about quite a bit. But that is the report from Pauline. Take it for whatever it's worth. He was the first on the Deontay Johnson trade last year. He's been wrong other times as well, of course. But that is the report that Pittsburgh could target Joe Flacco this offseason.
The math don't add up there, but look, I mean, Joe Flacco has obviously had some decent games over the course of the last 2 seasons, and he's had some of them where the wheels have come completely off as well too. And if you're talking about kind of what Mike Tomlin's talked about with quarterback mobility, you can no longer put Joe Flacco in that category anymore. Now, look, I understand if you've got a young quarterback that you're trying to have some mentorship along with, and you saw what happened in Indianapolis there and all like that. I understand the right situation to have a guy like Joe Flacco or Andy Dalton or I don't know, name another one, Carson Wentz, one of those out there, I guess. But landing in Pittsburgh at this point on anything other than a minimum value contract, I just don't see it. So they need mobility on this team, and even though it might not be them running back the same 2 in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, I could imagine whoever they decide. Let's say they did go with Justin Fields as a starter. I can imagine whoever the backup being a little bit younger and having a little bit, which it wouldn't take a lot, a little bit more mobility than a Joe Flacco. I respect Tony Pauline. I think he's done great work, especially draft related stuff over the years. Not so much maybe as far as NFL level and breaking news of who's going to land where in free agency and all like that. But we're talking about it today because he is a name, and we do read his reports and all like that. So I would be shocked if Joe Flacco lands in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it seems less likely. Although I will say, in the Colts organization, they had Richardson, a highly mobile quarterback, and Flacco was their backup, the opposite. So that was kind of interesting to see those two guys layered. Now the offenses are a bit different, and Shane Steichen runs an RPO heavy offense, and they can make it work with Flacco, I suppose. Although, as you said, he kind of petered out by the end of the season after getting a couple of starts there in Indy. But it gave Pittsburgh fits, that's for sure, because
Sure
they had a
did.
real game plan to stop Richardson and quarterback mobility and run game. And then Flacco comes in. It's the opposite of that. And he just carves up the Steelers and wins that one as they hold off the Steelers 27-24. So, there's certainly value in layering the same style of quarterback, mobile quarterback as your starter, have a mobile guy as your backup, so your offense can functionally stay the same in some respect. But also, there's probably some value in a different type of quarterback as well. As the Colts show, when you have a different, pocket passer that if they did have to go in the game, defenses would have to really adjust on the fly and maybe dramatically change their game plan, how they rush, how they cover, what they call, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, just take it with a grain of salt. We'll see, and we'll go from there.
You're definitely not dumping a lot of money on that. That's for sure.
No, what did he even play for this year? I mean, he's not much. Not sure what his contract was. Let me check what it was a 1 year deal. We had 1 year, $4.5 million. He signed with the Colts. So
right, it would have to be even less than that, I think. But
yeah, probably would come in a little bit under.
All right. Okay. Anything else Steeler related news heading into this Monday before we talk about a couple of draft prospects here?
I just do want to mention, I know it's a dirty word and there are some strong opinions. I'm sure you saw it in your Twitter mentions, as it was the case for mine. If I told you, Dave, in April, May 2022, that by the 2024-2025 season, Kenny Pickett would be appearing in a conference championship game, you'd say, sign me up, man. We are back. Let the good times roll. Well, Kenny Pickett did appear in a conference championship game on Sunday, but not for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was for the other Keystone State team, the Eagles, mopping up duty as the Eagles blew out the Commanders 55-23. Yes, we're all aware that Kenny Pickett had no helping hand in the victory. He's been the backup quarterback all season, all that kind of stuff. But I just made the comment because it was kind of a wild sight to see Kenny Pickett in a conference title game that was not for the Steelers.
Right. He's one win away now from being a Super Bowl champion now. Yep. So, and regardless of not playing, whatnot, I mean, to get the opportunity to be on a team that wins the Super Bowl is definitely something here. So, I enjoy twisting. Look, did I think he was going to be the guy at some point, after his second season and all like that? No. I was obviously shocked that the Steelers cut bait with him the way they did and the way that he went out of town and all like that. Do I think he's got a promising career in the NFL moving forward? No. But I mean, the guy, he landed in the perfect situation, really, overall. And once again, he's now one win away from being a Super Bowl champion.
And the Eagles yesterday, 7 rushing touchdowns, 3 from Barkley, 3 from Hurts, and 1 from Will Shipley on a handoff from Kenny Pickett late in that game. Tied a playoff record with the 1940 Chicago Bears for most rushing touchdowns in a postseason game. And so it's going to make for a fun Super Bowl between the Eagles and the Chiefs.
Yeah, what about that Saquon Barkley, man? Have a guy that can bust off runs like he's able to do. I mean, super re-energizing that offense. Obviously, a great offensive line with the Eagles. And what's the tally? 8 former Steelers in some way, shape, or form connected to the Super Bowl this year.
Yes, thanks to our Matthew Marksey for doing all the legwork. And I wrote the article just based off something he had previously written, that there was a guarantee of at least one former Steeler appearing in the Super Bowl because there was representation in all 4 teams heading into championship weekend, but 8 in total will travel to the Super Bowl. Now, fewer than that will play, but the tally for the Eagles in terms of guys who are on their roster in some capacity, ex-Steelers, of course, Kenny Pickett, punter Braden Mann, former offensive lineman Fred Johnson, who had signed with Pittsburgh as a rookie and then went elsewhere, and old friend LaRaven Clark, the offensive tackle, who was on injured reserve since May. He's, of course, not going to play in this game, but he is going to, I assume, make the trip. And then for Kansas City, it is Juju Smith-Schuster, as we mentioned earlier, and then 3 players on the practice squad, and Chris Oladokun, who will look for his 3rd Super Bowl ring. It's kind of working out pretty good for Chris Oladokun, and a couple of corners in Steven Nelson, who does not seem to like the Steelers too much for how that whole thing ended with him getting cut. And Darius Rush, also on the practice squad for the Chiefs.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's your 8 there. All right, Dave. Before we get to some of the draft talk, we're going to try to do a shorter show today, which I know we always say and rarely do. I was reading something in the Athletic today, just scanning it for maybe any particular quote, and not the first time it's been suggested. Should this team trade Minkah Fitzpatrick? What do you do? Is it a bad contract? Right, Fittipaldo called it that. Although said they're likely to keep Fitzpatrick for at least another season. Anytime the season has come to an end, really the last 2 years, it's do you trade TJ Watt? Do you trade Minkah? Watt, of course, it's not going to happen. Minkah, I suppose there's more plausibility, more discussion there. What is your thought when you think about Minkah's season, his future, his contract? Do you consider trading him? What's your take?
Let's start with what he's scheduled to earn in 2025, which is $15.5 million. All right. So, if you were going to try to trade Minkah Fitzpatrick, with him having, at his age, with the amount of years left on his contract, he's got a 2026 year, obviously under contract as well too. If you look at if you traded him before June the 1st, you would have how much dead money in there? 13.71 million, and his cap hit this year is scheduled to be 22.35 million. So, okay, you save what, about 9 million, I guess, or so, 8.645 million in cap space there. There's the cash expenditure, obviously, that you would save in the 15.5, and this is a team that's already kind of in a situation where they need to spend some cash, right? We went over the cash just recently, the kind of the cash situation that this team looks to be in starting the offseason. So it becomes it all depends on what you could get for him and how that. If you're going to trade away Minkah Fitzpatrick, it's got to be with the notion of somehow a franchise quarterback's got to play into this, right? Move up or whatever. To me, you're making it. You're including this. It would obviously be ahead of the draft. It would be some ploy to try to move up, possibly, to get an extra first round pick or earlier second round pick. To significantly impact the offense, and if you couldn't do it through the quarterback position, it'd probably be a wide receiver or something like that. But once again, if you subtract, and I look at these things a lot different than other people do. I don't think he's a cancer on the team. Obviously, I obviously think that he did not make enough plays the last couple of years as well too. How much is that from teams scheming away from him? Is that the Steelers' fault for how much of the Steelers play a fault in this and not moving him around enough to maybe give him the opportunity? How much is Minkah just being fine with tied to the post back there that way? Who knows? But I don't think he's a cancer on this team. I don't think Minkah is I think Minkah is a player that you can still obviously win with and all like that. And then once again, I look at these things totally different. If you were to trade him away, that's $15.5 million in cash that you've got to turn around and respend. And I don't trust that the Steelers would do that appropriately on top of what they were already looking to do to help build a better roster. And you still got to replace that free, that free safety position on top of it. So this is intertwined with, okay, great. You saved the cap space, but you're still going to have to spend that cap space. You're not spending the $15.5 million that puts you behind the 8 ball even more of having to go out and spend cash, because you have to spend cash. People just don't understand that, over a 3-year period, teams have got to spend at least 90% of the 3-year total of the cap number in cash. And they did not get to the 90% mark last year in year one. This is the year that you generally see them spend 90 or more close to 100% in the cash number, and they're far away from that heading into this offseason here. So I understand you'd have to you'd have to give me a better, more concise reason of what this is unlike a George Pickens situation because you don't have a lot of cash tied up in him. You do have a fantastic, talented player in it, but you also have a player that, lack of a better word, isn't a choir boy, right? That adds distractions within there. So it's easier to replace his cash, and I don't want to say he's a very talented guy, but I mean, you're more apt to, at least if you had a earlier draft pick, to take a couple of shots at it that way. What I'm getting at is you're going to have to give me a more precise reason of why you're trading Minkah Fitzpatrick and what you hope to gain this offseason in doing so. Does that make sense?
It does, and I'm not advocating for it, but I think the argument for trading Minkah is he worth the money that he's making?
I mean, once again, you don't look at the cap number. You have to look at the cash. You
Okay,
have to look. You
what's
have
the
to
cash?
look. The cash
15?
is $15.5 million.
Okay. Is he playing at a $15 million level?
I think. I mean, look. What has he been up until this point? He's been a guy that delivered takeaways up until the last couple of years there. We have seen him have to be utilized as a tackler more, and have to. You don't want your safeties to have to lead the. We talked about this last couple of years. You don't want to have your safeties, leading the team in tackles or be near the top, but he's done it. Do I think he's worth, from where he's at in this game? Do I think he's worth $15.5 million cash? Yes, I'll say it. Yes.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how you evaluate. Is he a 10 million player? Is he a 17 million player? You kind of get a little lost in the sauce there. I think just generally though, I'm gonna have trust and faith that Minkah is gonna return to form. I think it's 2024. I'm not gonna defend it. It was not Pro Bowl level, even though he got the nod. It was an average year for a safety, which for Minkah is a down year for him, considering the crazy ceiling and elite player that he's been before. I don't even blame it on the scheme. I hear that so much from a lot of fans and even some local media guys. So they just didn't use him right. Someone explained to me how they didn't use him right. Now, 2 years ago in 23, I get that totally. He was in the box too much. They didn't have a defined strong safety. Really impacted Minkah. Really hurt him. His ability to kind of play in center field and in read coverages and make plays and break on the football. But he returned to his free safety role in 2024. They signed DeShon Elliott, which was a fantastic signing, not only in player, but in getting that designated strong safety that would play in the box and allow Minkah to get out of there. The numbers prove that. He was playing box snaps like 3% of the time before Elliott got hurt late in the year. But I still think Minkah, even besides the lack of splash plays, he was not as strong in coverage overall. I think his tackling was very good. I think his run defense was very good. That was still normally excellent as it has been. But all that to say that I still think that he's going to be able to turn things around. He's 28 years old. I still think there is certainly intangible value in teams staying away from him. There is an element of that, no question. And I'm not going to give up on this guy just because of one average season. 2023 to me was kind of a wash because of the misuse, because of the injuries. I'm not going to really hold it against Minkah. I'm not going to go cut bait on this guy, especially knowing if you do cut bait, you trade him, then you got to replace him. Far easier said than done. I really have no appetite to trade Minkah. Maybe I'm perpetuating the stagnancy of the team and keeping things the same.
Sure.
I just don't have any desire. I don't see, as you said, that compelling reason to trade him.
Look, if you were in a situation where you had to kind of trim cash a little bit more, and not spend it, there is an element of the cash versus where you're at in the spending versus how are you going to replace him and then still stay competitive on top of it there. So, there's so many, there's a couple of axes here on the chart and all, but once again, if you were going to do it, this is the off season to do it. We would agree on that, right? Because you don't want a guy going into the final year of his contract, because that could play a part into limiting what you get, because some teams would view it as a 1-year rental, right? So if you were going to do it, this would be the off season to do it. But how are you going to replace him? And you'd have to map out where you're going to spend that extra cash, and this is already a team that's set up to have to spend a lot of cash as it is. Would they go above and beyond? I mean, would we really see who's one of the higher free agent, free safeties out there
for 2025?
Right.
I can look it up now. I don't have a list. Probably not a ton of names. Safety market's typically depressed, and I don't know what all's going to be.
Looks like Justin Reed's going to be unrestricted. Harrison Smith's how old is he now? 36.
Very old.
Justin Simmons. I mean, look, they had an opportunity to add Justin Simmons this past off season and didn't, and he's already 32 years old. Do you believe that?
Time flies.
Justin Simmons, Marcus Epps, Xavier Woods, Jeremy Chin with the Commanders is going to be unrestricted. I mean, you just go down the list here.
And there is Morrig from the Raiders, who's a good player.
Right.
See if they retain him. I mean, Reed's interesting. I mean, there's a couple names. I'm not going to. There's a decent class to it.
Look, you would obviously probably end up saving some cash in the long haul if you traded him and then even went out in free agency and signed another safety, right? I mean, you're going to save the cash, and then it comes to, okay, what are you going to do with this extra cash? Too many people watch, and I was guilty of this as part of learning the cap situation and hyper focusing on cap space and cap expenditures and all like that. But you've got to look at the big picture at this as well too. And there's the cash element. And this is, once again, the Steelers are set up this offseason to have cap space to work with and to have cash space to work with. And I would like to see them remove some of those precedents that they have and go out and make bigger splashes in free agency in the cash aspect and more specifically that hierarchy line that we talk about.
Well, let me just play devil's advocate to that point. I understand the point, and we've discussed it plenty about the need to spend cash, and it's probably going to come this year because it didn't really happen last year. But do you want to be beholden to cash and let that dictate you what moves you do and don't make? I think there's a risk to getting so hyper focused on that. You don't want to
overpay. You don't want to spend the cash and then overpay just to say I spent the cash.
Or in this case, keep a guy because we need to have the cash spending to kind of check this box. There's a concern I think you would have there if you focus too much on being dictated by the cash and cash alone.
Sure, but this team because this team builds through the draft, and because this team, it all plays together with the game plan or with the organizational way this team attacks things, right? It's built through the draft, supplement through free agency, re-sign your top players, those draft picks. And one thing, the reason why their cash is probably a little bit under where they would probably like it to be is because they have not drafted well over the years, and they're not re-upping some of these players into the offseason.
Sure, no question about that. I mean, if they were to trade Minkah, they could spend the cash if they really wanted to. They could go out there and do it in free agency. There's going to be enough options for them.
Sure, but would they go after the right guy and and be competitive? Because you got especially in free agency, we've seen time and time again that players, because the supply and demand oftentimes get overpaid, right?
Sure, we've seen quote unquote dream teams of free agent collections that don't work out because you got to see a bigger picture than just individual talent and how did things come together and personalities and all that kind of stuff is fair. So again, I'm not in the trade Minkah camp, but there has been, media buzz, no actual reporting or speculation about them actually trading Minkah Fitzpatrick, but it's just a talking point this time of year in a relatively quiet moment, and I wanted to bring it up because we've not really discussed it too much, you and I.
Look, this team is a lot further away than just working around a cash worth situation with Minkah Fitzpatrick for 2025.
Yes, although I think some would sit there and say that's why you traded Minkah, because you're not close, and so get something for him and try to rebuild and really hit that reset button.
Look, could you get a first round draft pick for Minkah right now this offseason before the draft? I say no, you can't.
I hadn't thought about it. My first thought is no, you probably would not get a first. I think you get a second round pick. I don't think you get a first.
All right, I think you could potentially maybe get a second round pick.
Okay.
And then you're back in the market of who's going to be. Are you going to draft your next free safety then? Because then it becomes a hole that you've got to fill some way, shape, or form.
Sure. There's nothing internally to fill.
Right. It's not like you have this next up and coming guy behind him or anything.
Yeah, it's kind of a barren wasteland. We should mention too briefly, jog my memory, that Ryan Watts, the rookie safety, posted a photo on Instagram, and I think a family member or somebody shared something as well. It looked like he had a surgery on his neck. He had that neck injury that looked pretty scary. Just a freak moment, one of the final plays. I think it was actually the final true defensive snap of the preseason for Pittsburgh against the Lions, and put on IR, was in a neck brace for part of the year, and it appears he's now officially had surgery. He says he's optimistic to return. Kind of ominous to hear, obviously, with neck injury. So not that he was going to be counted on for anything, but just kind of some Steelers news that looks like Watts had a procedure within the last couple of days.
Yeah, and when the timing of that happening, and the way the post came out on Instagram, it left us trying to figure out when this indeed happened. And then I think his fiance or his girlfriend, you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and you realize it happened really recently here. And the downside to that is we're talking about a guy that has been out since preseason, obviously, and then it obviously didn't go the way that maybe they hoped it would have went with the rehabilitation throughout the season and all. And then now it feels like, all right, well, this is the kind of a last resort, situation here. I am at my core an optimistic person. You know that about me, Alex. I mean, it might not convey enough through my writing or
the guy that says doom, despair, and agony every show is actually more optimistic than you would think. Yeah.
Right. I am at my core an optimistic, glass half full kind of guy. This doesn't feel great because of the timing and the nature of the injury with him, and that's you hate to see that for a young kid like this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't know all the circumstances around the surgery. Was this something where it was kind of planned, where he needed time to heal before surgery? Was it where they were hoping whatever injury he had would heal on its own and not require surgery, and it didn't go that way, and now they have to do the procedure? I just sit there and say, this guy probably has not worked out since that hit, that in that moment, since getting hurt. And so he's probably gone the entire season, obviously not trying to train and just trying to get as healthy as possible and recover from the injury, and then to have the surgery, which I'm sure is going to require more rehab, more recovery. It's going to be a lot of time missed, obviously. So It's unfortunate. We'll see if he can go back for the spring. That's next time we'll probably get a good feel for maybe his availability, what he's up to. But yeah, it's unfortunate for Ryan Watts.
Yeah, look, I mean, at this point now, I think you just keep your fingers crossed and pray that he can get back to, that he can actually get practicing, cleared, and get at least practice by the time training camp opens up, so
yeah, could be a pup
time. Right. So anyway, back to the whole Minkah conversation. I get it at its core, and if you were to do it before the draft would be when you would do it. I'm watching Mac Hollins catch a touchdown had a couple great catches in that game. And didn't we write about Mac Hollins last offseason that if you're going to connect the dots of players to Arthur Smith, Mac Hollins might be a guy to connect. They could have had what it is contract. I'm sending myself down some rabbit holes here, trying to talk about 8 different things here. He signed for a base salary of $1.54 million. Had a prorated signing bonus of $500,000. Had per game roster bonus. Anyway, he looks like his cash contract value was $2.6 million this past season, with $1.1 million guaranteed. So that's what the Steelers. Not that he would have been the end all do all in this offense this past year, but probably would have been better than a Van Jefferson.
Yeah, I was venting it out last night. Of all the 74 Falcons they brought in this offseason, the one guy they didn't was Matt Collins, who was the first guy I talked about at potential Smith followers. But in fairness, and I found this out after writing the article, I don't think Smith and Hollins had a good relationship. I think there was a Falcons guy that had said that. So probably understandable of why it didn't happen. But yeah, you just watch that and sit there and say, yeah, you got Van Jefferson and Scotty Miller instead of Matt Collins.
All right, we just looking at the spilt milk there.
Yeah, we're just being angry.
But once again, to sum up the Minkah thing, I understand the discussion of it. Would I trade him? No. But if you want to look ahead to 2026 and with Minkah and what his cash value would be at that point, he is set to earn $17.6 million in 2026. He's going to have to play better than he's played the last couple of seasons, or a year from now, we could potentially be talking about, is Minkah a guy that you trade or cut come the 1st of March or middle of March?
Like you said, if you talk about trades a year from now, his value will have been reduced potentially if it's another down season and going into the last year of his contract.
Correct.
All right, Dave, let's go to some college all-star game news. Got our crew down, crushing it in Dallas and Frisco, Texas for this year's Shrine Bowl. The game's going to be in a couple of days. Got guys headed down for the Senior Bowl, which is just starting up. I think they're doing weigh-ins, and they'll be practicing later this week. And so check out all that coverage. Got a ton of practice notes and player interviews, some really good stuff from the crew. But one guy we wanted to talk about, mentioned him Friday, was Ty Robinson. And I didn't end up getting a chance to watch him. One of our other guys claimed him for the report. And so I ended up taking somebody else to just try to find some new faces and get through my scouting reports and get some of those articles posted. But I know you took a good look at Ty Robinson this week, Dave. So what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, definitely a guy I wanted to get to, just because of the measurable aspect of him that sticks out, and also to stick with the theme that I'm trying to roll through as part of my early getting to know this draft class. I wanted to get a lot of the defensive linemen out of the way. Draft Scout, as I think I mentioned the other day, has him the 21st ranked defensive tackle on their list, 197th ranked in their top 350, a projected round. Now, this is early in the process here, 6th round. They do have his stock, one of the few on their list of the defensive linemen here, as stock being up with him. The measurables, they have him listed at 6'05 3/4, 310 pounds overall. Was excited to see what a guy like this looks like on tape. His body. Let's start with the body build overall. He is every bit of 6'5" and 3/4, 310 pounds. He is going to be, I believe, at the Senior Bowl, I believe. So we should have a true. Was he part of the measurements that came in from?
Nagy tweeted out a handful as a teaser thing. I don't believe Robinson was on that list. I will double check though.
I'm not seeing him either on that list. Anyway, he's got a kind of a squarish build to him. Overall, kind of a I guess, a defensive version of a Mason McCormick, if you will, just kind of that squarish build. His arms are he's got, and I use this loosely. You look at he got JJ Watt, not as long as arms, but I think his arms are going to be more. Somebody, I think, in one of these videos said they're supposed to be like 34 and something or another. So we'll definitely see on that. But I like his arm definition overall. It looks like his arms are going to be just fine as far as length. He lined up all over the place on the defensive line against Nebraska, up and down, over the nose, out over a tackle, all of that. Very impressive, I thought, against the run in every place that he lined up, right, left, over the nose, you name it. I thought against the run did a good job of anchoring, being able to fight off blocks, all like that. He's got, as far as a pass rusher, he's not super twitchy overall, but he does have plans within all that. It's got a nice bat. Arm over. I think he uses power relatively well. I like the way he kind of refits his hands and all. And he's just got a relentless motor on him as well, too. You don't see, we talked about who was the Kentucky kid, Deion Walker, kind of inconsistent motor, I thought, on a guy like Walker. I did not see that with a guy like Ty Robinson here. I think he was a captain at Nebraska. Obviously played a lot of games. If you look at him, he's I could not find an age on him, but he's probably going to be one of the older guys in this class.
Yeah, wasn't he like a 5-year, 6-year guy?
Yeah. See if I can pull up his production here overall.
He's probably like 24. Looks like May 3rd, 2001 is when he was born.
Let
me double check that here.
So that'd make him like coming up on 24, right?
Yeah.
That's probably about right with him. 60 games at Nebraska, looks like, over since 2019. Props to him. He managed to, I think there's articles about him, about NIL and why I didn't get deep enough into those, but watched a couple of interviews with him. Really good kid. Once again, I think he was a captain for them as well, too. This past year alone with him, and probably why he's listed as a stock up player, he was a kid coming into this season with, I think, 5 total sacks, had 7 in total this past year at Nebraska, had a career high in total tackles, 37, 4 passes defense, 7 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, after having a total of 4, 8, 12, 14 going into this season. So he damn near equaled his tackles for loss. Once again, passes defense, 4, had 1 forced fumble as well, too. I think this is a guy that's progressed as the years have gone on. I would say probably at this point with the 2024 film, I did not go back and look at 2023, 2022 yet, but he's probably ceilinged. And what you see is what you get right now as far as his upside. And if that's his upside, it looks absolutely fine at this point. No way is, I've said it in the past, I've been wrong for it. No way is this a 6-round guy, especially with that build. Okay. He's at the Senior Bowl for a reason. I think as this week progresses, you're going to see people talk more and more about Ty Robinson. I just am an impressive guy on tape. Is he a 1st-round guy? No. Is he a 2nd-round guy? Probably not. But you got the planet theory working here. How many guys do you have at 6'5", 6'6", 310 that have the tape that and hearts and smarts and experience that this kid does? So this is a guy that I would imagine the Steelers are going to pay a lot of attention to throughout the pre-draft process, starting with the Senior Bowl coming up this week here. I enjoyed his tape.
So what do you think the ceiling of his game is? Do you think it's starter caliber, or are we talking more like louder milk?
No, I think he's a far better run defender and pass rusher
Okay.
than Loudermilk was coming out of Wisconsin. Far better.
Okay.
Far better. More.
This is a guy that can play in sub package.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I
And
do.
get after the quarterback.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
he can. Look, and not that it matters. He's not super twitchy, but I mean, he's athletic enough to he chased some quarterbacks and did some good job of flushing the pocket and catching up with a few of them with for some sacks here. They put him at fullback too.
Okay.
I think there's at least 1 or 2 snaps floating around him at fullback as well this past season. One of them, I think, was against Boston College, I believe, in that game that you can see that one there. But look, I mean, I like this tape. I think he's probably about a 3rd or 4th round grade on this guy. And look, I kind of look at him as maybe more of a Peyton Wilson wasn't a total unknown last year going into the Senior Bowl, but I think he is a guy that, because of his production and because of some high end tape, made moves last year during the Senior Bowl. Now, obviously, there was all the talk about his health and knee injuries and all like that. And then Mason McCormick, obviously being a smaller school guy, but he's going to be he's going to be kind of grouped in that here comes Ty Robinson kind of talk throughout the offseason. I think you're going to see more and more people talk about him starting this week at the Senior Bowl. So I'm really looking forward to kind of the stuff, the practices and all that come out. Against somebody. He had some really good battles against that left guard at Ohio State. I thought throughout this season here as well. Long story short, the Steelers are going to pay attention to this kid.
Yeah, anytime there's a guy that kind of fits that size profile that we've talked about is really hard to find, height, weight, length. Not that it's the end all, but it's a really good starting point. You perk up when you see those guys. So I'm really excited to see his measurements, see exactly what he comes in at the Senior Bowl.
Better prospect than Logan Lee. Last year, one of the first ones that we was talking about was Logan Lee. I think he is a lot better prospect than Logan Lee from a year ago.
And 7 sacks is interesting for Robinson this year. He was not a sack guy before this year at Nebraska. That light came on. I hadn't looked at a sack reel. I don't know how many of those 7 sacks you went back and looked at. Were they high quality? Were they clean up? I don't know exactly how those were distributed, but interesting to see that sack production perk up.
Right. I probably have seen all of them. I just did not look at a specific reel of them.
Do you remember if they were like,
there were probably at least 2, I think, high quality that I remember of him getting to the quarterback quick, and then a couple of kind of past 3-second, type where just continually constricting and effort, effort kind of sacks clean up, if you will. Those kind of things. So all 7 were not high quality sacks. I'll tell you that.
Sure, but if there were at least a couple of them, then that's good. You just don't want it to be like Chris Wormley a couple of years ago in his 7 or so sack campaign. None of those were really quality. Kind of felt like that number was not going to sustain, and it did not, although he ended up getting hurt and kind of derailed his career. Do have a scouting report in drafts on Robinson. I did not personally write it. I hadn't even really looked at it too much. Trying to see what the conclusion was. And it's funny enough, this is from Jim Hester. He put a 3rd round grade on Ty Robinson. So you guys seem to be pretty aligned there.
All right. Yeah. And I did not know that was in drafts. So, okay. Yeah. I mean, it feels he started 4th round guy. And once again, I think you got there's going to be a lot of teams that are interested in this guy. So I think one of the beauties with him, let's see, didn't we talk the other day about where he all lined up here? 2024, A gap 60 snaps, B gap 304, and over the tackle 130. So he was all over the place. And even in 2023, kind of a similar usage with him. 56 in the A gap, 230 in the B gap, and 181 over the tackle. So he's moved up and down that line, and on both sides as well too. So the grade that He had his highest grade on PFF this past year at 75.1. Where they gigged him at the most, I guess, was his tackling at 48.8 grade. So he missed, looks like 7 tackles according to them, and that's probably what dinged him the most this past year.
All right, it's a guy we'll be talking about. Be keeping an eye on those weigh-ins and his play during the week at the Senior Bowl. Got Ross McCorkle and Jonathan Heitro and some other guys down there. So we'll see if he earns the buzz you're giving him right now.
Let's see. Who did his sacks come against? One
pretty
was
even split.
Yeah,
a bunch. It wasn't just like one game or 2 games. We had a big production.
Well, it looks like one against Colorado, one against Purdue, one against Rutgers, one against UCLA, one against USC. One against Boston College. They must have had a split with him. PFF give him probably one was lower quality that maybe ran somebody out of bounds or something like that.
Well, PFF does the whole "we don't believe in half sack" thing
right.
too. I think so. I don't know. Sometimes their sack numbers can get a little bit funky from the box score, but yeah, that's a pretty good spread of production against some quality teams too.
Right. So anyway, someone I think we're going to be talking. Let's see. I got his game logs here. Where was his other one at? Texas. UTEP won. Colorado won. Purdue won. Rutgers won. UCLA won. USC won, and then Boston College.
Yeah, that's not like beating up on some D2 FCS team where you got 3 sacks and that inflated your numbers. That's all maybe besides UTEP-ish, and UCLA wasn't great this year. But anyway, it's pretty quality from just that stat sheet alone. So a guy to look for me, Dave, one guy that caught my attention, just from hearing some of the comments and the interview that he conducted with Steelers Depot this week at the Shrine Bowl was Texas Tech running back Taj Brooks. And he had a meeting with Pittsburgh, and to be fair, they're going to meet with all these guys. You don't put a whole lot of stock into that, but what was interesting was that apparently in that meeting with Pittsburgh, Brooks said that the Steelers said he reminded them of Le'Veon Bell, kind of a comparison of Le'Veon Bell in terms of Brooks's run style. It's a little Bell-like. It's patient. He will do that whole kind of wait, go type of thing like Le'Veon Bell did. He's built, he's stocky, he's listed 5'10", 230. I forget his exact weight, and I can probably pull that up as well. And so I threw on his tape. He's not a guy that's he's gonna lack that long speed. He's gonna lack that burst to the outside. Not gonna be a home run hitter, but can pass protect, can catch, has good vision. I don't know if he's what Pittsburgh is looking for, because if they want more outside zone, more speed, more perimeter type of guy, that's not going to be him. But I did like Brooks's tape. Could be a 3rd down role for him in the NFL.
All right. How many? Let's play. Open up. Grab a pen and paper here, real quick, with him. All right.
Okay. I'm gonna pull up his measurements too. Just give me 1 second.
All right. I want you to write down. I'm going to give you 2 numbers for each of the seasons for him, and we're going to quickly figure out his explosive run rate of 20-yard runs or more. All right.
Okay.
All right. 280. How entertaining is this? I don't know.
For us, it is.
286 attempts, 14 runs of 20 yards or more.
So you want the percentage on that?
Well, I'm going to give you a list to add up here. That's 2024. Okay. All right. That's 286 and 14. 2023, 290 attempts, 9 explosive runs of 20 yards or more. 2022, 147 attempts, 5 explosive runs of 20 yards or more. 2021 had 87 attempts, 5 of them explosive runs. And then, boy, this kid's played some ball, hasn't he? 2020, 69 attempts and 1 run of 20 yards or more. Total all those up and find me an explosive run percentage there. And while you do that, I'm going to pull up something here from a few years ago.
And Brooks left as Texas Tech's all-time leading rusher, and so there is a lot of wear and tear on him. 879 career carries, and so that'll be another concern. Yeah, he's a little more. Maybe somebody made the comp on the site, Najee Harris, than Le'Veon Bell. He's been a workhorse. He had 7 career games with 30 or more carries, and so he's certainly a guy capable of shouldering the load. Again, I don't think it's going to be his role for the NFL just because he's going to lack that dynamic ability, but good tape. Reportedly good guy overall, and so I did enjoy watching him. Let me get you the number. I should have it here in just 1 second. All right, I have the percentage of runs of 20-plus yards, if you want it now.
Okay, what is it?
3.9%, 34 of 879, if my math on the fly, my public math was good.
All right. Do you remember what Najee's was coming out?
I'm sure you do. I do not. I know it wasn't good, but I don't know the exact number now.
4.1%.
All right, so he's in the same ballpark there. Again, like I said, Brooks not an explosive big play guy.
I did not remember that I did have the Najee 10-yard variety of that. So I'm going to roll you back through the 10-yard runs. You already have the attempt numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
all right.
10-yard runs.
All right. 41.
Mm-hmm.
37.
Okay.
17.
Got it.
14.
Got it.
And 6. We use this show as research time as well too.
Yeah. Dual purpose. 13.1%, 10-plus yard run rate.
All right. Najee's was 21.2.
Oh, wow. So far better. Of course, Najee was behind a great offensive line, but I thought Brooks would have ranked better there, to be honest with you.
All right. I just perked up my ears when this interview went up and all like that. You can't stat box search scout these guys, but one thing that I wanted to do or will do at some point through this process with these running backs is go back through and find their explosive play rates and all, being as how it does look like the Steelers might be in the market. So from what you've watched on tape on him, does it match not a high explosive run rate?
Yeah, like I said, he didn't have the burst, he didn't have the long speed. I think that was pretty clear on tape. Where he's at his best in terms of as a runner is turning that 1-yard run into a 4-yard run, making a guy miss in the backfield. He's got good short area quickness, good lateral agility, mobility, and in that vision to kind of set that hole up. He was really good in gap scheme, power scheme, and kind of letting blocks develop ahead of him, pressing the hole, getting linebacker out of his gap and hitting the hole. But not going to get through the hole, not going to get through the second or third level. That's why I called him more third down back, because he could pass protect. He's stocky, he's built, he's physical. Didn't run an advanced route tree, but has good hands and caught the ball pretty frequently. He's a check down option at Texas Tech. We threw the ball a fair amount. So my NFL comp to him was Royce Freeman. It's hard to find a real great comp to him. But again, I think we're thinking third down back for Pittsburgh. Probably not one of the guys that's going to fit well for what they're looking for. But, we search these guys, and some guys don't always fit Pittsburgh, but can still be good NFL players.
All right. That is officially the first guy that we know the explosive run rate, 20 and 10-yard run rate on for the draft class. So at least we got that knocked out in this episode.
And it'll be interesting to see because it's a really good running back class overall, ton of names to talk about. And so we'll have a lot of data, I'm sure, to compare and contrast. I'm sure Ashton Genty's going to turn out pretty good in these studies, but of course, he had a lot of carries too, so we'll see what the percentage actually is.
Shall we run his real quick?
All right, why not? Turn up here on a Monday.
I mean, what else we got to talk about, right?
Yeah, hit me. We'll see,
right,
how it compares.
Hold on, let me.
Before we begin, take a guess. What do you think is 10 and 20 plus? Just guess.
All right, let me see here.
You want to write it down and then kind of have our answers set at the same time or kind of back to back?
All right,
really
let me fun. Let me write.
This is how Dave and I have fun. This is our lives right now. It's probably more justifiable for Dave as a 50-year-old man to enjoy this than me as 31 single Alex. So less shame in you than me here. I'm trying to think what
I'm going to use some super round numbers here. With my you just want to trust that I wrote this down, or do I need to put it in DM or what?
No. Just write it down. We'll do Scout's honor here. Okay. I have my guesses of 20 and 10. You want to give my answer for 20 first, and then you give your answer for 20?
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to guess for his run rate of 20 plus yards, I put 8.6%.
I
Maybe a little high.
I put 8% even.
Okay, we're close. 10 run rate of 10 plus yards, I put 27%.
Wow. Okay. I put 20% even.
Okay, but you said Najee was like 21%.
Najee was 21.2%.
So I feel like Genty's got to be higher than Najee.
Okay. Maybe
right.
you're right.
All right, so let's actually run the numbers here. I know his career carries. I can just look that up. It was like 900 something. If you want to verify, that's fine. We don't have to go through the year by year carries because we do have the technology. 750 career carries for Ashton Genty. So just give me the runs of 20 and 10 plus.
Okay. I can give you by year here.
Yeah.
I'll give you two numbers, the 10 and the 20 by years here. Okay.
Well, give me just 20 first though,
Okay.
and 10 so I can add it up easier.
All right. 25.
This is for 20 plus.
This is 20 plus.
Okay. 25
for 2024. 25.
Mm-hmm.
For 2023, 12.
Okay.
For 2022, 5.
I'm going to be way too high, I think, on my number. Yeah, 3 years is easier with him. So 42 runs at 20 plus out of, how many carries did I say? 750. That's going to be 5.6%.
Wow.
So you won. You were closer to the pin.
But I still went over the
Price is Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I do not win the showcase. Wow. What's that number? 5%?
5.6%.
Okay.
That'd be higher.
The 10% or the 10-yard runs,
Mm-hmm.
63,
Mm-hmm.
37,
Mm-hmm.
and 24.
It's 124 out of 750, 16.5%. Man, I thought this, I guess because of the volume and just like teams knew they had to take him away. And obviously he busted off big runs, but you don't remember the 2-yard runs. You just remember the big 60-yard runs. But I thought it'd been higher than that. But I do think, I still think he's a great prospect, but just
how many total rushes did he have?
750 according to Sports Reference. 3-year.
All right. That's a lot of volume. Najee came out with him and Travis Etienne. The years they came out, Etienne had 686 rushes and Najee had 638.
Okay. Yeah, Najee was an older guy, 5-year guy, Genty 3-year guy, but a ton of workload, 374 carries this year. So heavy workload for him.
All right. So what was the 20% number and 10% number with Genty?
20 run rate 5.6 and 10 run rate 16.5. And Brooks was sitting at, I think, 3.9 for 20, and I forget now the 10 run rate, but it was lower than 16 maybe.
Here's something interesting for you from the chart that I did, explosive run rates back in 2021. Chuba Hubbard, 585 carries, had a 20-yard run rate of 5.6%, and a 10-yard run rate of 16.4%.
Wow, dead on there with Genty. That's interesting. Not sure what else to take away, but it's interesting.
I had to look at the film and all. How many of those were wide open? How many of those did he create? Obviously got to look deeper than that. But he was a guy that I would have thought would have been higher, definitely higher than what the actual numbers are on both those.
But we'll look at the other guys, compare, contrast, and again, maybe the volume of snaps there hurt Genty a bit in a sense. All right, Dave, what else do we have here after that? I'm sure scintillating exercise that our readers or listeners really loved. Any other Steelers news? Anything else coming across? Still no coaching changes, and the team basically is down in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. So, not saying they can't happen after the Senior Bowl, but you would think they would happen beforehand to get pieces in place to evaluate this critical week. So, maybe pretty quiet on the coaching change front.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Get into this week, and I think at some point this week we'll have Art Rooney speak, right?
Yeah, it should be actually this week, typically when the bat signal goes on up. We'll also see if we can see if there are, because are there any coaches we don't see down in Pittsburgh? Is Carl Dunbar there? Is Eddie Faulkner there? Is anybody we don't see? Not that would be set in stone that they're not with the team anymore, but just going to do our due diligence and see what happens.
All right, so shall we get to a couple emails here?
Yeah, just a couple. I know we're pretty short staffed today, so I want to get back to writing and figuring out the day's news. But let's get to a couple emails, close out today's show. Also, by the way, Dave and I will have a live stream tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So join us for that.
All right. Sean writes in, hey guys, my son and I are trying to find the talk stat per game and separate the regular season and playoffs separately, and I can't find how we can figure out that stat. What do you guys use? We are interested in the Steelers, obviously, but just the overall accuracy of the stat of current playoff teams. Love the show, and I absolutely love the 2-hour podcast. Keep them coming. So he wants the talk stat per team and separate the regular season and playoffs. I don't know if there's one site that actually that's not maybe pay that you can get them. I'll try to put something up if you be more definitive of what you're looking for. If you I guess he's wanting the talk stat of each separate game, of whether they were plus or minus in each one of those. So, Sean, I don't have those at a fingertip right now. Maybe I'll write about them during the off season there. But I always enjoy people being Talks stat fans.
For sure.
So especially, it sounds like him and his son are both interested in that. This one from someone named Yahoo. He says, every time I hear Alex question the value of number 2 and number 3 receivers in our offense, I think about Darius Slayton being a great option. Somebody below the top tier, but athletically can make plays. What do you think about him? Yeah, look, I mean, I think during all that lead up to the regular season and them having to fatten up Slayton's contract a little bit, and then talking about the Giants, and then get into the trade, pre-trade talk and all. Slayton was obviously a guy that you kind of wondered what would happen with. He wouldn't be an awful option for this team at the right price during the offseason, right?
No, he wouldn't be. And there was a lot of discussion about him at the deadline. Obviously, it didn't happen. He stayed with the Giants. But I guess it goes back to, like, is he a needle mover? I mean, he's a vertical guy. He's a big play kind of a guy. But is he, going to really elevate your offense to a whole new level? Probably not. But in this offense, to the reader's point, maybe that kind of middle ground investment where we're not going to spend $30 million on a receiver or anything close to that because we don't have the offense to support it, but we'll spend 11 million or whatever, just picking a number on Slate and let him make a couple of splash plays for us. Also, we shouldn't forget about Christian Kirk down there in Jacksonville, considering the Pittsburgh apparently was going to trade for him before he broke his collarbone. Right. Now he's under contract. I think he's not a pending free agent, but has a pretty large contract. New regime down there with Liam Coleman, GM to be determined. So we'll have to monitor Kirk going forward.
Look, is Slayton an upgrade over Van Jefferson or Scotty Miller?
Yes, we're talking low bars to clear.
Right. And you mentioned Kirk. What's his situation here?
Yeah, again, I believe he's under contract. He had signed that big free agent deal with the Jaguars, which many thought it was an overpay to begin with, which kind of looking to be the case. Again, got hurt last year, Pittsburgh. It sounds like they were going to trade for him before he got hurt and missed the rest of the 2023 season. So if he becomes a free agent again, will Pittsburgh still have interest? I'm going to guess they will.
He might be could he be a cap casualty? He's set to earn $16.5 million in total cash
for a new regime, new head coach, new GM coming in.
Right. So would you trade for that? Probably not, right?
I mean, Pittsburgh was about to, apparently. Right. Now, I don't know what the Jaguars were going to eat money. They probably were going to eat something. I don't know the particulars, but Pittsburgh seemed like they were trying to do it.
Well, if you were to trade for him, it would be a $16.5 million cash take on because he's got $15.5 million base salary. He's got $500,000 he can earn in per game roster bonuses, and he's got a $500,000 workout bonus as well too.
Just saying the name to keep an eye on. Slayton's a good suggestion as well.
Let's see what let's take one more email here. Love the from Tim writes in or Mott. Love the in-season coverage, but the off-season is really when things get cooking. With all the cap space, what about doing something like signing Trey Smith to a massive deal, or Tevin Jenkins or Will Fries, and cutting Sayamalo for a little relief? Get better and younger. He says, I want a wide receiver as much as the next guy and dying for defensive line talent infusion, but I like guard or cornerback as sneaky potential free agent splashes. What do you guys think of that? Speaking of which, what did you think about Ray Fittipaldo talking about Fautano and guard?
I think that was more amusing than anything else. He just said the door, he wouldn't keep the door closed on that potentially happening. But all indications are Fautano is going to be the right tackle for 2025. And that makes sense with McCormick and Sayamalu. I don't see any scenario, even though Pittsburgh loves to play musical chairs with their offensive linemen. I don't see any scenario in which Fautano is playing guard unless injuries just happen to really rock this team. So I'm going to be confident in saying that Fautano is going to play tackle in 2025.
I am as well. The only way that doesn't happen is if you spent another early round draft pick on a guy that you knew absolutely could be, another starting tackle for you. And I do believe, along with, I think, who was the one that looked at him as potentially a guard?
Dane Brugler, center?
No. Somebody broke down him as a guard. I don't think it was Baldinger. Mike Martz. Mike Martz.
Oh, okay.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He prior to the draft or right after the draft last year, Mike Martz did a great breakdown on Fautano and said, look, yeah, probably be a really good tackle, but probably could be an elite guard at the NFL level. So that's always stuck with me. The only way it would happen is if they went out and got another tackle in this thing,
Sure. And now, to the reader's point, would you swap out guards? Would you go sign a Trey Smith off of the Chiefs and cut Sayamalu, to the reader's question?
I mean, what's the Trey Smith deal going to look like? I mean, obviously, you are in the later stages of Sayamalu's career, but I think pound for pound, he was one of the best the Steelers had on the offensive line last year, wasn't he?
Well, again, you're talking about lower bars. I mean, he had an average year. I thought the pec injury, I'm sure, impacted that. I don't think he was ever fully healthy. He misses the first month, and just kind of really a bad way to start your season. I mean, he's going last year, his contract. I don't think he'll be back in 2026 is my guess of things. To answer the question, I don't think I would do that. I don't think I would swap out the guards that way. The guard market's exploded, and Sayamalu is a veteran. There's some experience there, want some level of continuity. So I would just kind of keep things, as it is. The more important thing is developing Broderick Jones and McCormick and Fautanu. If they can do that, the O-line's going to be really good. If not, then it's all going to fall apart. The plan's not going to work. I do think they could draft a guard. I think we don't talk about that much, but remember they drafted McCormick because they knew they were going to lose James Daniels. If they have a good inkling they're going to lose Sayamalu or let him go after this season, do they draft a guard? Because right now, who's going to replace Sayamalu? I don't think Spencer Anderson is a 17-game starter. He's a versatile backup. So do they draft a guard in the mid rounds the way they drafted McCormick in the 4th round?
I think it's plausible for sure. Let's watch the short shuttle times.
Yeah, hey, there's a good correlation there.
Right. When it comes to that, who are some of the top guards down in Mobile this week? What does Ross have on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I know Ross posted a list of the top guys to watch at the Senior Bowl this week. I don't know how many guards were on that list, if any. He's got Jackson Slater from Sac State.
Yeah, he's got the Oregon kid, Johnny Cornelius, Garrett Dellinger from LSU, Miles Frazier from LSU, Tate Ratledge from Georgia, Caleb Rogers from Texas Tech, John Savianea from Arizona, Jackson Slater from Sacramento State, and Armin Mimbo from Missouri. So those are the guys that he has on his free Senior Bowl primer. So we'll be learning more about those guys this week. I don't know anything about any of those guys right now.
Yeah, pretty limited in my knowledge as well.
All right. We got through some emails. We've done this about an hour and a half, so I think we filled up some time here and got some explosive play rates on running backs. And
yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add before I get us out of here?
Nope, that's all. We'll come back on Wednesday and talk more Senior Bowl and talk whatever else is happening and maybe do some more running back explosive run rates because it's such a crowd pleaser.
All right, I'll try to have that list ready by Wednesday. How's that? Of the top running backs in this class, I'll have a chart of 10 and 20, so we don't have to fill up airtime and doing math there. Okay, so in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Are you looking for an app for SteelersDepot.com? Now's the perfect time at the end of this show to see if we can kind of slow roll it out. I've got it listed in our if you're signed up for emails for the site, we have an iOS version for app for the site right now. If you go to Apple and search the apps for Steelers Depot, you should be able to find that app. That way, we invite you to get that installed if you use that kind of platform and see how you like that. We're working on a Android version of that as we speak right now. Hope to have that rolled out as well too. We'll kind of start promoting this at an earlier stage in the show and on social media, probably as this week goes on as well too. So if you're looking for an app for the site, at least on iOS, you can go to the App Store and get it for free right now. So we invite people to do that moving forward here. So until Wednesday or until later tonight, if you choose to join us on the live stream on YouTube on Alex Kozora's channel. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.